Now, as a starting point for today's discussion, I would like our experts to tell us about the GLI, or the Global Lung Function Initiative, and its role in moving toward race-neutral equations.
The Global Lung Function Initiative is an international collaboration of physicians and physiologists, researchers, and industry partners. And they formed a network in, I think, 2008 with the purpose of trying to improve how lung function is reported and interpreted across all age groups around the world. And this network has become like the largest resource of, uh, of reference values for routine lung function testing assembled. Um, The GLI function data has included populations from different countries around the world, and the lung function from healthy populations has been used to create what are called now reference equations. And they help describe how a patient's or person's given lung function compares to what's expected for someone of the similar age and height. Um, In 2022, the GLI Global introduced race neutral equations. And these race neutral equations are equations that do not require selection of race for application.
In 2023, two significant publications were released. In the journal Chest in August of 2023, The Effect of Race and Ethnicity on Pulmonary Function Testing Interpretation at American College of Chest Physician, American College of Respiratory Care, American Thoracic Society, Canadian Thoracic Society review, evidence review, and research statement was published. Earlier that same year, in April, the Race and Ethnicity in Pulmonary Function Testing Interpretation, an official ATS statement, was released as well. Can you please speak to the efforts that went into these publications and their recommendations? And based on your involvement in the professional societies, how do you see the rollout of the move away from race-based predictive models for pulmonary functions progressing?
Sure. I think one thing that's really important to note is those publications were published in 2023, but really the work that went into and the discussions began years prior to that. And one aspect that I think is really important to note is that the movement that we saw in the field of medicine in general, really reconsidering and questioning our practices related to how we think about race and medical algorithms began years before. And one point to highlight is it was really sparked in part by the reflections of medical students and early career trainees. There's an article published in the New England Journal called Hidden in Plain Sight. And that's a reflection actually of medical students as they went through the rotations, noticing that race was in several different algorithms in OBGYN, in nephrology, or how we assess kidney disease, in cardiology, and in one of the areas included in how we interpret lung function. And so those types of really heightened awareness led the American Thoracic Society and other professional organizations to realize that we needed to convene and really think about the historic precedent and why we came to be considering race and lung function. Was it necessary? And review the scientific evidence in a rigorous way. And those publications are the aggregate and the communication reflecting several years really of dialogue and of review of the scientific evidence. And as you've mentioned, the conclusion of these bodies of work was that the recommendation was to no longer include race in how we interpret lung function.
Is this also being brought up by the manufacturers of the spirometry software? Is that taking a role toward this initiative?
I think as we think about how lung function is measured, the manufacturers and the equipment that is used to measure lung function, those measurements are measurements of actual values, things like liters of airflow that are exhaled when someone takes a forced breath, the type of breath they might make when they're blowing out birthday candles or something like that. And when we think about how race enters the equation or enters the picture, that's really how we interpret the values we get from our tests. So whether a value is considered to be normal or expected, that's where race has been part of the systematic evaluation in the past, and that's where the change is. So the manufacturers have in their software different algorithms for how the data is displayed, and how the results are reported. Sometimes these are percentile values, and those percentile values are based on the healthy normal populations that Dr. Quay was describing, the reference equations. That's part of the process of defining a percentile value or determining if something is normal or abnormal.
Great. So with this change, what are some of the educational efforts being made toward physicians regarding this change in predictive values and how to interpret their pulmonary function testing on their patients?
I think it's important to note that there's been a number of respiratory societies that have gotten involved in this initiative, including the American Thoracic Society, American College of Chest Physicians, the American Lung Association, and the European Lung Foundation. And they've all prepared educational documents to inform patients and physicians alike about the impact of these race neutral equations. I was involved with the American Thoracic Society Diversity Group and had joined the Pulmonary Function Test Committee when I met, when I started working with Dr. McCormick. She's one of the co chairs of that committee. And on that committee, one of our initiatives was to look at the effect of GLI Global on pulmonary function testing. And I was lucky to be able to work with Dr. McCormick and two young committee members, Aparna Balarusamanian and Ian Huang, to start developing patient and physician handouts um, to talk about the effect of diversity on PFTs and the potential impact of diversity on how a lung function is read. And then from there, we started working with the American Lung Association to prepare educational videos, and that was a lot of fun. I'm hoping that these will come out shortly. But those videos are looking at just trying to explain to patients and physicians how to understand what their breathing tests are, how these breathing tests might change, and then what Z scores are, which are included in the breathing tests.